Hi, my name is Kyle Turpin. I am going to talk to you guys about. First of all, we have to learn what gender is. It refers to socially constructed roles, behaviors, activities, and attributes that a society considers appropriate for a person based on his or her assigned sex at birth. It actually doesn't have to deal with like their biological sex most of the time. Um, Pretty much the differences in gender. Women and men usually do not face the same needs or vulnerabilities in the face of a natural disaster or climate change. It's different each time, and pretty much based off of being male female, we both need different needs for each type of situation. There are huge differences within each group regarding protection concerns and capabilities. Um, and all these can affect like our coping strategies, participation in prevention, relief, and recovery, and the actual reconstruction process when it's all over and done. Um, Men during a disaster, our mortality rates usually increase, um, and it's mostly just based off our belief that we're the stronger sex and that our precautions aren't even necessary. It usually has to deal with society expecting us to take in historic rescue action. So we think we're high and mighty and nothing can hurt us, and that's what we're supposed to do. And lo and behold, we end up hurting ourselves. We usually take on the roles of protectors and have we usually are given greater responsibilities because of that, and that's usually before and after disaster. And one of the things I found is privacy really isn't an issue, as big as an issue for men compared to women. Um, Women, on the other hand, before disaster strikes, they usually gather supplies and food, uh, which is different from the men who usually are uh, reinforcing their structures and barricading windows and stuff like that in case of like a hurricane or something like that. Women usually account for a majority of those affected. From studies I found, it's usually more than 75%, and they're usually more vulnerable than men to the effect of natural disasters. There's reproductive and sexual health problems, and the increase of sexual and domestic violence usually tends to occur during disasters. Um, After disasters, women tend to become primary caretakers of those affected by disasters. Usually comes from injured or sick kids or even the elderly. Um, but their vulnerability usually gets increased a lot by a loss of a man or a loved one. Like you usually has to deal with a man. That's because they usually have to provide for the rest of their family that they're protecting. And usually what happens is post disaster stress systems occur often, and it's more, I'd say, stated than for women than men. Women, it shows that women are 14 times more likely to die during a disaster. From one disaster I found on the internet, a cyclone disaster in Bangladesh in 1991, over 1,400,000 um, died, and 90% of them were females. Women are also more likely to be victims of domestic and sexual violence, and because of that, they tend to avoid shelters because of a fear of being assaulted. And going with that, privacy is like a huge thing for women. They need special accommodations, separate bathrooms, sanitary supplies, and even though it costs more money, it is very, very necessary. And going keep along with that, there's the UN is starting this new strategy called UN mainstreaming that I found on the internet. That it's a huge accepted strategy for promoting gender equality, and pretty much what it is they want to make sure that during a disaster, women and men have exactly what they need for um, supplies and how to survive. You can't just have a room with men and women both sharing the same thing without taking consideration that women are going to need more than what men need, like separate bathroom, showers, sleeping quarters, because you can't just have single men and single women and families all living in one giant location, because then problems can occur and sexual violence can break out, and then that's going to lead to people not feeling safe in shelters and avoiding them at all costs.